media artist, intuitive guide and channel, lover of color, and 1,000% woo-woo. Woo-woo, you know how it gets, spiritual things get a bad rap. It gets dismissed a lot because sometimes when things are hard to understand, we reject them. And a lot of times abstract work also gets rejected because of that. People are looking for a concrete image, something to grasp onto. Oftentimes, intuition, sensitivity, ethereal ideas, esoteric ideas, it's very abstract, and it means that we have to go within and like really listen. It's all about listening and opening up to all these awarenesses. So this is a video where I'm going to talk about art making and sensitivity and decision making, and I'm going to show you the messy middle of where I am and talk a little bit about sensitivity and showing up in decision making, because really sensitivity is built up over time. Although I would guess if you're an artist or creative or energetic person, you maybe just were naturally born with that sensitivity where everything was open. So that was my experience as a child, and I eventually shut down a lot of that because it was too much for me to handle. But over the years, through many life situations and life challenges, and also trainings and teachings through spiritual teachings, through art, through all kinds of things, you know, I get the awareness comes back, and sometimes the universe gives it to you because you're just on a path and then all of a sudden it opens. And sometimes a teacher opens the door. You never know what's gonna open the door. And I would venture a guess, it's often not what you expect. And it's often not fun. That real learning, that real rising, that real like polishing the stone. There's an explosion often that happens, and I'll get more into that in different kinds of videos as we move forward, because here it's all about the expressive nature of being. It's about sharing stories, sharing words, sharing experiences, whether that's art making or conversing, and so we can open up the awarenesses, because it's not just about making a painting to me. It's about all of these things that can influence how we live and how we want to choose to show up, especially during these times, because they are going to get more interesting. So how do we anchor into being? How do we, if we are sensitive, how do we dial it all back and utilize it in the best way possible, you know, and not get taken out? Of course, there's going to be days when we're taken out. So it's all about awareness, is like paying attention to that. Sensitivity is about opening, well, the heart, and sometimes, you know, certain things can open us. It's not being so rigid. See, if we just do this, clench, and then release, you're gonna feel the difference. It's that simple. So what we want to be doing that is in our whole body system, not fighting ourselves, now fighting our natural capacity to move freely in our mark making, in our lives, in our expressions, which is multiple things, right? Because that's creation and creativity. So when we're paying attention to all those awarenesses, that's going to open up the sensitivity. And you know, it's through deciding to show up to the moment is where it's really gonna happen. So in this video, I'm in the middle of some messy middles, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this and the art making. So let's just get going. So I'm right in the middle of working layered in large works. Like I said previously in the introduction, the sensitivity to make the decisions is what's going to dictate where you're going to go. You decide you want to make a really layered piece. and that's what you set off to do, and then that's going to take maybe some time possibly. But the thing about learning to develop a sensitivity to the decision making is sometimes in this process things will start to emerge faster than others. But it's learning to refine all of that, which takes time. You can't rush this process. I don't believe. The only thing that I've seen is a culmination of years, and I feel like I'm just getting somewhere after like 6 years. So what's the next 6 years going to be? I have no idea. I just want to tell you, if you're a beginner or if you're stuck really, you got to go back to the awarenesses and make some decisions and show up. It's true. No, because nobody's forcing you to do it. It's all on your own volition. It's taking your own capacity, be like, deciding I'm going to stick to this because it's easy to quit. Believe me, I know. I had quit for 20 years before. Maybe even longer, I don't know. We gotta, how do you stay with it when it's hard? Well, you kind of have to just do your own personal reckoning, and this is why like journaling and other energetic practices, whatever else like bolsters you to stay with it. Now, art making can give us like a spiritual inroad, and I believe it does, but also I'm heavily doing other practices that like kind of influence what I do. Anyway, in this video, I'm gonna just go through these messy middles. Some are further along than others. And these I just pulled out. They're old works, but I've just been obsessed with bringing up my process from smaller 9x12s to 18x24s. So like I said, we're going to go through these messy middles, and I'm just starting from what I see. It's a call and response, and these are all decisions made up over time. You're constantly making these decisions, and the more you work daily, the more you're going to see yourself start to emerge. You're going to know that there's some non-negotiables for yourself personally, and that's when we talk about voice. That's where that's coming from, because you're just like, I love this and I'm not gonna leave it alone. And that is getting so intricate and intimate with yourself, and we're just moving through these messy middles here, and they're probably gonna need more layers. Sometimes they come out there. I'm just putting a drawing in. I've been kind of challenging myself to bring in different elements that I've been afraid of, but they've always been there. And see, this stuff changes over time. That's why it's so important to pay attention and see what we're in resistance to, and keep taking notes and keep working it out. Sometimes we're just going to work it out within the work, but other times it's like you got to do these other things, get a coach or do something different and not get so hung up on the work, or do less serious work. Not to say that all the work isn't serious, and I'll explain that more going forward, but you just not attached to it so much, which is so hard to do in art and life, because we want things to be the way we want them to be, but sometimes in this process we don't even know what's going to surprise us the most, and I think that's exciting. So being a beginner all the time is great. So if you're a beginner now, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just keep going, and I would just keep, seeing what's there and keep uncovering that stuff, because, it's never going to stop. You don't want it to stop, do you? Or we'd be dead. That's the only time it's stopping. Or if you decide to quit, right? Which I totally can understand that journey. Sometimes it's like so hard and you go, oh, what's the point? And you can get really locked up. You can get really locked up in the process and not really know what's going on. Because you're going against the fear in those moments, you know. The thing really wants, you really want to expand beyond that, and so it's taking each little step. It's going into each little moment. It's redefining it for yourself over and over again. Like you're not finished. You're just beginning. You gotta keep remembering that. And that's where sensitivity grows and awareness grows, and you just keep deciding to show up. Thank you for spending some time on me thinking about sensitivity and decisions and awareness and all of that stuff that goes into a moment. And there's many moments that lead up to sometimes the epiphany, but you know, it's great to have a final moment, but it never really is final. Sometimes we need guidance on our path, and that's what I do in my one-to-one coaching. I help you come back into alignment with your energetic self, with your intuitive self, with your emotional self. And we really dive deep. So we really do the hard work, you know. Sometimes it's not easy to get to the next level because we're just like doing that clenched fist thing. And we need to like release. We need to ease into it. It needs to be gentle. We need to look at what's important and what really matters, you know, in our artwork or in our lives in order to open wider. So if you're interested in that, you can find out more in the links below the work with me section. And also there'll be more videos coming on here about all kinds of things: energetic, drumming, intuition, sensitivity, shamanism, of course, how art making is the bridge between those worlds, especially the abstraction. That's what I'm really interested in doing, and I'm interested in like bringing everything out, like I said in another video, instead of like leaving this whole side that's super important to me like over there. I don't know if you've ever tried to leave something behind that's important to you. Well, it doesn't leave you alone. So it's better to just like say, okay, let's all come together and just do this thing. And it can be scary, you know, when you haven't opened up to all these sides and let people see you. And sometimes we only let people see us in like these small windows, and maybe that's what we need at the time. But when you're desiring more and then you know you're hiding in the fear of it, when you're desiring that thing that's important to you, and it's like time to come out. So also I help you do that just by being here and by me reflecting that back, because we all deserve the opportunity to like live in our fullest expressions and not with these limitations and labels and hierarchies, you know. So it's very inclusive here, and that's important to me. And very, very, very important to me. I just wanted to say that because it doesn't matter if you like believe what I'm saying. You should believe what you're saying, but we should find that middle ground. And you know, that's where the real stuff is gonna be created from, in that understanding. You know, not when we put up the walls, and not when we don't try to understand another side. But it doesn't mean anyone's right or wrong. It just means it is what it is for you through your perception and through your lens. And something might be really important to you that I might not understand, and vice versa. But when we come into this opening and awareness and start hearing the stories, well, we realize we're not alone. And we also realize that there's so much more here for us, you know. Instead of this fighting thing, we can go beyond that and open up wider. But it does take the awarenesses, and it does take honesty, and like looking, because it's hard to look at things that went wrong, and it's even harder to admit like what maybe we truly want for ourselves, like in our artwork, in our lives, because that could elicit a huge change, right? Or it could go against everything that maybe you've seen in this weird structure out externally. But really, I think that's what being creative and an artist and like trying to get closer to who we are and live into that expression is really about. It's really about like dialing on to, oh, these things, I just need them no matter what, and I'll do whatever it takes. But I want you to feel supported in that, because for a long time I didn't feel supported, and so I know that sensitivity, if it's being shut down, if it's being like ostracized, if it's being shunned and laughed at, like I know, I understand that. And sometimes when we're moving into our creative work and our artwork, you know, we can really shut down because we bring all that stuff with us. But when we learn to untangle all that and kind of, well, let go of what's not working and then get closer to what's really important, and then like kind of take that and run with it, that's where like, that's the good stuff. So that went into a little longer outro, but I think whatever is coming through me is important, so I'm just gonna trust that and trust that it's for somebody. And maybe I just need to let it out too, you know? It's all about sharing in that reflection and connection, in art and life. So thank you for being here. If you're new and you want to stick around, just hit subscribe, and there'll be a lot more things coming, so stay tuned.